I'm Shelley Zalis, the CEO of the Female Quotient and the founder of the Girls Lounge. And this has been really an amazing week at the Girls Lounge at Cannes for so many reasons. You know, we truly have gone from a moment to a movement, connecting over 17,000 corporate women to one another, not only to connect, but to collaborate and activate change together. And we just had the most inspiring panel called #SeeHer. And it was the first time in history that we are bringing the industry together. Procter & Gamble, Unilever, AT&T, J&J, to talk about how do we create accountability for change. And for all of you at the ARF, we love you, we appreciate you. And one of the most important things to know about research, you can't treasure what you can't measure. So it's never been a more important time to be in the world of market research. Data not only provides insight, but it also provides context. So for this #SeeHer movement, which is all about the accurate and realistic portrayal of girls and women in media and entertainment, we created a GEM score, a gender equality measure. So now, when you do your copy testing and you create scores for likability and purchase interest and persuasion and relevance, you now have a dimension called equality. And we've created a standard. It's 4 questions, the GEM module, of how women are portrayed. Are they portrayed in a respectful manner? Are they portrayed in an appropriate way? Are they role models? Are they portrayed in an inappropriate way? And we've now tested in the last year over 20,000 ads, and we've tested the top 200 Nielsen-rated television shows and then some cable shows, so that not only can marketers standardize this GEM measure, but they can also move their advertising into programming that accurately and realistically portrays girls and women. So thank you, ARF, for all the work you're doing in market research, and thank you for pushing us to always be better. And I think that's where we create movement. It's where we create progress, by being conscious of the decisions that we make, being conscious of how we create media and advertising and entertainment. We always say, if you can see her, you can be her. And the more we present women, not even in a positive way, but in an accurate and realistic way, we will see that we can not only drive change, but we can hold ourselves accountable for that change as well. This is truly a remarkable day that I am so proud of, because we are working together, because we share the same purpose and the same passion for advancing equality in the workplace and, of course, in the world. And so for me, I feel like I'm so star-studded. I'm like a celebrity gawker right now, because each and every one of you are my heroes and sheroes for really leading the change. And I think that's what it takes. So I think what I want to do is have each of you introduce yourself, introduce who you are, where you work, but then give me a little personal why equality and why, accountability for equality is so important to each and every one of you. Let's start with Keith.
Do you want to start with me? Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Keith Weed, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Unilever. And I not only look after marketing, but I also look after sustainability efforts, so social and environmental sustainability. So when you think of the things we're doing around social and environmental impact, that's myself as well. And that's one of the reasons I'm really committed to it, because at the end of the day, diversity of thought and diversity of style brings innovation and creativity. And if we are going to sort of build our brands and make a bigger impact in the world, we want to put the best talent against it. And so why would you only use half the talent in the world if you can use the whole talent in the world? But beyond that is you could get a lot of middle-aged men and teach them to try and think differently, or you could take a diverse group of people and leverage the diversity amongst them. So that's the reason why I'm interested.
Have you ever seen Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Who's seen Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You get 3 options. 1, phone a friend, but if they're an industry expert, they still might not know the answer, right? Or ask 50% chance, or ask the audience, which is a disparate, diverse group of people, and they're right, I think, 94% of the time, which is quite remarkable. So diversity of mindset, I think, really does come into play for success. Stephen.
Yeah, my name's Stephen Quinn. I'm formerly the Chief Marketing Officer of Frito-Lay and then Walmart for 10 years. And today, I'm the chairman of the AFE and the See Her initiative, and I've been working with a really talented group of really passionate people about this. And, there's two things I would say as to why this is important. First of all, I have daughters, I've got a wife, a sister, my mom, and this matters. This initiative really matters for the culture, and I think especially right now, there is such division in the culture, and yet if we just helicopter above that, there's so many things that we agree about, the kinds of values that we all want in our culture, so that flourishing can take place. And we know that gender equality is really important to a flourishing community, a family, whatever it may be. We want everyone to be able to succeed. And so as part of the See Her initiative, I get to be involved with marketers in really to having that impact, because marketers have a huge amount of power, and what we're trying to encourage them to do is to use this, and there's good reasons why they should. It's very good for their brands, it's good for their corporate reputations, it's great for ROI, but they can really make a difference in the world from that position of strength.
Marc?
Well, how about a little equality?
Oh, so I shouldn't do 3 and then 3?
Yeah.
I should mix it up right out of the gate?
Whatever you want, but...
Okay, Fiona.
Sure. Hi, I'm Fiona Carter. I'm from AT&T. I'm the Chief Brand Officer. So what that means is I look after the brand across the company, but specifically the corporate brand, the media, and the sponsorships. And I think those who know me will know that I'm a real activist feminist, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I was brought up by a mother who was really independently minded, and she taught me I should be financially independent and have a career. And I think from that, that's where my true passion for gender equality came. I have a son and a daughter, and I care about their futures. And I think I was just very fortunate to find myself at AT&T, where that really matters. Diversity is a value that really matters to our company. You may have seen our chairman who spoke about Black Lives Matters. He's a very vocal CEO on social issues. And beyond that, we have over 150 million customers in America. So they're almost equally half male and female. And we believe as marketers that we should market to all of our customers from a place of humanity and understanding. But as a woman, I look at advertising, I look at programming, and I don't really always recognize the women I see, whether it's their age, whether it's their color, their career, their emotional demeanor. It doesn't really represent the universe of diverse, wonderful women, frankly, that I see before me today. And we want to do something about that. So that's why we're hugely committed and happy to be on this panel with our fellow marketers.
It's amazing. And then we'll go to Nadine.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Nadine McHugh. I'm at L'Oreal, and I oversee the U.S. Omni Media Strategic Investments and Creative Solutions. And so it's all about everything that we're trying to do to drive forward, to create unique experiences that resonate with the consumer, to deliver the ROI, of course. So we talk a lot about co-creation, etc. And so I'm thrilled to be able to co-create now with this very important initiative with the ANA and the See Her group. I have to say, so there's a couple of personal experiences that I've had throughout my career. And I think as you climb the ladder, it becomes more apparent. But when you're younger, there's subtle things that happen. And I know some of your research has shown this. So I have a daughter, she's 16 now. When she was in elementary school, and she plays sports, so she's very athletic. She's on a basketball team, and she is a pitcher on a softball team. So she wanted to be, what do you want to be when you grow up? You want to be a baseball player, you want to be a football player. She wanted to be a basketball player for a really long time. And I wasn't sure how, not because she was a girl, but because, you only, the select few get it. But I encouraged her, and, you could be whatever you want to be, you just have to work hard at it. And that's what I learned, and that's what I was trying to teach her. So one day she came home and she said, Mom, I don't think I want to do that anymore. And I said, well, why not? She said, because people don't care about girls' sports. And she was a really smart little kid, right? So I said, well, what do you mean by that? It was kind of striking. So she said, well, think about it, Mom, like I was an idiot. And that was the beginning of that, but that's another story. Now that this was pre-teenage years, she said, well, think about it. She said, they don't put girls' sports on TV. And I said, actually, they do. I was trying to find it out for her to, have a path. I said, actually, they do. She goes, they're not on the important channels. So she knew, she recognized that. And it's striking. And here she was probably about 9 years old. And we're crushing, these little girls at 9 years old. That's devastating, especially when it's your own daughter, but even, for everyone. So I think that this initiative is super important. Working at L'Oreal, we're a company that makes, most of our products are for women. The mantra for the company is beauty for all. So it's about, being able to express yourself in any way that you choose to. And we have initiatives also that sort of speak to women. We have women in digital. There's a couple of women in digital winners here. I don't know if they're in the front. There she is. Which we've been doing for a very long time. We have women's summits. We do all of that. And now we're focusing on gender equality because, as Shelley said more than once, and she's so right, if we could have done it alone, we would have done it. And it's about bringing men into the equation and having a diverse conversation, working in a collaborative way and getting all of those perspectives in one place. So I think the natural progression is to really take it to the media and do the right thing. It's about doing the right thing so that the future is bright for all of us.
Okay, so now we bounce back to Marc, because two back.
All right, great, thank you. I'm Marc Pritchard. I'm the Chief Brand Officer for P&G. My personal passion for this has, I come by it honestly. I grew up with 5 aunts, married to Betsy. We have 3 daughters. In fact, all of our animals are females, so it's just an amazing thing. So it's very much surrounded. But then I worked in the beauty industry for 20 years. Probably the most profound moment for me personally came when I was actually at a vacation with my family. It was a bit of a spiritual retreat, and I was running CoverGirl at the time. And the head of this said, he was kind of the spiritual advisor, said, you need to understand something. You are in business, and you have the greatest potential to affect the world in the future than anyone. More than clergy, more than politicians, more than anything. And because you have an effect on popular culture, and you have an effect on really, business. And that was a big moment for me, because at the time we just developed a CoverGirl Easy Breezy Beautiful campaign. It was a great campaign. The problem was our spokespeople were too skinny, too monolithic in terms of being blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and too white. And so I said, we got to make a difference here. So we flipped it, and we changed. We hired Queen Latifah. We brought in Ellen DeGeneres later. We completely created diverse, because what we wanted to do is to portray women as they are, and so we could empower them and help them empower them do what they can do, and that has carried over into the role here. I'm delighted to be part of the See Her campaign. I've been on panels with Allison. Keith is, I'm sure, going to talk about some of the work that we're doing with UN Women. This is the kind of situation where the industry can come together to make a difference. That's our brief. And we can use our voices in advertising as a force for good. And, by the way, a force for growth, because with equality comes growth. I mean, just the simple fact that if women are paid 20% less than men for the same job, you inject that into the market, and that's $4.3 trillion worth of purchasing power. That's the kind of power that we have, and that's why I'm excited to be part of this alliance and very, very passionate to do it.
That's amazing. I mean, and we're going to get to Debra in a minute, but not only, Marc, does it add $4.3 trillion to the global GDP by 2025, but, we sell candy, by the way, for $1 to men and 79 cents to women, just because it's such a silly conversation. But also, according to the McKinsey study, it says if we keep going at the trajectory that we are, and we are not creating progress together, it will take over 118 years to realize gender parity in the C-suite, which is, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not waiting that long. I mean, I might have a couple of wrinkles at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Debra, what about you?
So I'm Debra Bass from Johnson & Johnson. I lead our Global Marketing Services organization, which are the marketing functional capabilities. I also sit on our Global Women's Leadership Initiative Steering Committee. And our mission is to grow women, to grow the business in our world. And to build on Marc's theme, we have an opportunity to use big for good. And what really inspired me in this movement, when I ran the global baby business, I traveled all over the world. And in Africa and India, I saw that moms are the primary caregiver, and it's almost taboo for dads to show too much parenting because that's still a woman's job. And I know from the science that dads involved in early development nurture happier, healthier babies. They need to be involved. And we have an opportunity to change that stereotype through communications and through courage in how we portray men differently in parenting.
That's amazing. And so let's go to Stephen. And can you just level set, because a lot of us are not familiar with #SeeHer. Why did the ANA, the Association of National Advertisers, embrace this movement, want to create accountability for change, and even put criteria of, hoping we improve, knowing, because hoping means we're not going to do it. We know we're going to improve our advertising by 20% by 2020.
That's right. There's a couple of things. First of all, the ANA is a trade association for marketers. In the U.S., it's the number one trade association. Almost all of the really top marketers are members, and the job of the ANA is to help marketers do a better job of what they're doing, to help marketers serve their company's brands, their company's reputations, and to create a healthier industry. And there's room for a lot of improvement in all those things. And Marc already said it. The opportunity in this particular initiative is for collective action that has a huge impact, because there's a lot of things in the marketing ecosystem that marketers don't necessarily feel like they control. One of the things I've been really pushing for is you do control your own content. So get busy on that. Let's have that be better before the year is out. But the really big ecosystem that includes programming and so on, we've got to work together to actually get the attention of the people that can make change happen. Or like your salary stats, we're going to be waiting forever to get this change to take place. So why did the Alliance for Family Entertainment, the ANA, see this initiative as important? Because consistently we hear from families, 90% of families are not happy with the content that they feel that their family is exposed to. They want better content. And if you ask them, well, what are the issues? The number one issue by far is the portrayal of women and girls. And so what we did is we decided, instead of trying to fight on 12 fronts of different issues, let's just pick one, the most important one, and let's really drive a business case for success in that area. And Shelley, Gail came along with this idea for SeeHer 24 months ago. I guess it was 24 months ago. And it was perfect for what we saw was happening with customers. Many people have already mentioned the fact that, women are playing a huge role in the purchasing of virtually every single industry. And so they're crucially important, and yet we have these stats like 40% of women cannot relate to any characters they see in advertising. That's a massive failure of marketing, really. If we care about our customers, if we're trying to do the right thing by our customers, they ought to see all kinds of things that they can relate to. So it's a big opportunity for marketing to get a lot better. And sure enough, to your point, as we've created the gender equality metric, as we've measured now 20,000 ads, we're seeing tons of opportunities for marketers to improve, and we've correlated that to brand reputation, purchase intent, ROI, in a really quantified way that I think makes it a rock-solid business case, even if you somehow didn't care about this issue, which really everybody should.
Okay, well, I just have to say for a second, that was passion in action. And, who doesn't love you? Who loves Stephen Quinn? Rocking the house here.
Love Steve.
I think, the truth is I bring that up because passion and purpose are infectious. And, we say when purpose meets passion, we're unstoppable. And I think this is why this movement has grown and got so sticky, because you can't, there's nothing to find wrong with it. And we kept it very simple, because not only are we testing GEM for TV ads, but we're also testing GEM for TV programs, because we found that context matters. When you put a great GEM ad in a great GEM program, I think it was 30%, better. So context does matter as well. So let me just, and this is up for grabs because I don't love linear panels. I love conversations. So let's have one. Each of you have gotten involved now with the hashtag See Her movement. And I think Stephen confirm or, change my answer. Is it 55 big brands now are part of See Her?
Yeah, 55 brands. Well, 1,000 brands in 50 plus companies.
So the movement is going wide and deep, and it's getting very sticky. So within each of your companies, why is the hashtag See Her movement important?
Well, I suppose the reason why it's important, and of course we're here in Cannes, so let's talk about advertising. So
I thought we were going to talk about rosé.
So let's talk about advertising. I think why it's important, we have here all very big advertisers. And I think, Marc also mentioned this as well, is advertising influences society in all sorts of different ways. And certainly what we've found looking at it, and I know this was, you and Gail over a bottle of wine. How many bottles of wine? 2 bottles of wine. There you go. Imagine if you had 3 bottles of wine, what you could come up with. But I think what was good about it was starting to think about what can the role of advertising be. And then when you start doing a little bit of scratching underneath it, it's like all good ideas. They seem obvious after the effect. And we've done some research across the industry, so not just our advertising, across the industry. And we found that advertising, exactly as you're saying, it has some bizarre sort of stereotypes about what gender looks like, and we found that only 3% of ads showed women in a leadership position, 2% of ads showed women in sort of obviously being intelligent, 1% of ads showed women with a sense of humour, and that doesn't.
I was part of the 2% of intelligence. I hope I qualify.
And that doesn't, of course, reflect any women that I know. So I think there is something right now about understanding that what we are playing back to society is outdated stereotypes. Now there might be shorthands, that shortcuts or whatever. I'm sure there's someone out there making some sort of rationale about it, but they're lazy. They're lazy shortcuts. And I think what we need to do now is stand back and say, actually, we can do a much better job. And the good news about it is when we looked at more progressive ads, the progressive ads were 25% more effective. Which again, surprise, surprise, it seems obvious, doesn't it? If you're going to show something which is more aspirational, more people are going to engage it. And so there's not just a moral issue, there's an economic case here as well. And I think with the economic case, then it's going to be good for business in building advertising, which is more reflective of where the world's going rather than where the world has been.
So let me echo that story for AT&T. So we're the second largest advertiser in the US. I don't mean to boast, but we're going to get bigger post-merger. And we had the same sense of accountability and responsibility. We know we're culture shaping, we know we're culture making. But I've talked to you and Gail about my personal epiphany, right? So I was new to AT&T. We were making a brand new campaign around the new business brand. And we're at that point where you see the casting, and I think we've all been there. And it was at that point that I realized that the casting, and here I don't mean to criticize the agency. I think this is muscle memory. I think it's institutionalized behavior. But in that casting, we had less than 50% women. They weren't in speaking roles. The positions of authority were male, white male, and the secondary positions or the ancillary positions were people of color or they were women. And for me, that was just a very personal moment where I realized I had the power and actually the responsibility to make a change. And we talked about it with the agency, and we sent the casting back. And those of you in the advertising production business know that is always a crisis moment because you're always up against the deadlines. It's going to set you back. But it was important to take that step. And what I knew, though, was I can't be everywhere. So we had to find a way to institutionalize and systematize that behavior, which is where working with See Her really came into play for us. So we use the GEM score, and we actually use it in all our copy testing of all of our advertising. And what we too have found, and I'll share the statistics, is our advertising that scores more highly on GEM, it's 17.5% more likely to be recalled for our brand, 12.5% higher brand consideration, and 8.5% higher, better brand reputation. We've got the same statistics. It's a business imperative.
So we also, with the work of Stephen and Marc, we've looked at our ads and they've done pretty well. I mean, there were some that didn't, as I'm sure we've all experienced, but for the most part, they did pretty well. But what astounded me, so here's 3 major advertisers that just said our ads did pretty well, but you have a stat that says 42% of women look at the advertising out there and they don't see anything that is a positive portrayal of women. So that's concerning, number one. So there's the ad side, and so somebody's not doing it right, right? So there's work to be done. And then also more importantly, I think, or as important, is the programming, because these are the subtle signals that we're sending out to young girls who become women out there, and they're not the right signals, because for every ad that doesn't have women in a speaking role, you have evidence that shows the same is happening across programming. And if context matters, and we know that you get higher ROI and all of the other metrics go up, we're having like a crazy conversation about this. We should just all sort of band together and move forward to help change the
I didn't
program.
hear you. Say that louder.
We have to
What?
band together
Yes.
to change things and
Yes.
affect the programming.
I heard you. Now I heard you.
You heard me?
I
You want me to say that louder?
I heard you all 3 times.
Okay.
Just saying. I just wanted you to say it louder. I think that's really, really impressive. And, we are going to get a big standing ovation at the end of this, because each and every one of you deserve to be applauded for taking that next step. I always talk about, we admire the problem all the time. We understand it exists. We say there's unconscious bias, or maybe it's conscious bias, and then we're waiting for something to happen. And what I think we're all here to say is, if it's going to change, we hold ourselves accountable for that next step change. And then, Debra, I want to go to you. You are a new member of #SeeHer, and I know you participated in the meeting we had last week, and I know that you already have been, impacted by it. Can you tell us from your fresh perspective, being a newbie,
Sure.
how this is for you?
So we were recognized as Johnson & Johnson behind one of our Vino ads with Jennifer Aniston, and Andy Langer, the brainchild, is standing right here. Woo. And one was pleasantly surprised to see this score. And then when I went to unpack, why did that score so well? One, it was insight driven in that it's aspirational to see a busy woman who takes time for herself and isn't perfect, right? And I talked to Andy, what's the brief? Part of the brief is let Jen be Jen, right? Because she has a sense of humor, she's not infallible. But where I really see opportunity is how to build on that. So our Clean and Clear brand, the idea is see the real me, have the courage to be your real self. As a mom of a teenage daughter with all of the bullying and everything girls go through, how do we change gender stereotypes at a very young age? And then the other area of passion, which I spoke to earlier, is globalizing the movement. And if I could get more dads and extended family as primary caregivers and celebrate that, I will feel like that's a legacy well had.
I think there's also a really important statistic with parental leave. Right now we have maternity leave, we have elective paternity leave. The problem with elective paternity leave is men don't take it because they think it will show a sign of weakness. And so another stat, I just have to say, Harvard Business Review says that when women take maternity leave, they actually are taking care of their children because they're the primary caregivers, and men play more golf. And so it's a terrible stat. But I think that happens to be an interesting reality. But on the other hand, and I want to bring this to Marc, if we did portray more partners in the kitchen preparing, because I don't want to say it's just a man and a woman. Who knows what it is? Partnership. If partnership starts at home and we start showing men in caregiving roles, will that start changing the perception and the reality?
Absolutely. And the thing about what the See Here movement did in our company is that it started and sparked a conversation. When you guys went to the White House and we had some of our...
Did we go to the White House?
You guys went to the White House.
And get them to
you met,
approve?
Yeah, exactly. It was amazing. I mean, that was like a big celebration inside our walls. And because it was a moment of pride that our company was part of such an amazing effort, and gender equality is one of our core citizenship pillars. But it started the conversation. The GEM scores, running the GEM scores on ads started the conversation, and then what we began to think about is how do you make sure just the representation and the right roles and the right speaking, that starts to make gender equality normal. And part of what we're trying to do is make it normal, not a special occasion for a Super Bowl ad. It's the new normal, right? And what that also means is, so that's, and then periodically doing something like a Girl and a marriage market takeover and those kinds of things. But the other thing is to start thinking about positive role models, not just positive role models for women, which we've had in several situations on Secret and Pantene, but for men. A positive role model for our men is sharing the load. And so our aerial Share the Load, which you did in India, of all places, was one, but that sparked some other places. Just normal Tide advertising, where Dad with his 2 daughters is doing dinner and making a mess, and of course Tide will save the day. Dawn, Dad with his daughter, breakfast in bed for Mom. He's creating breakfast, of course he's got to clean the dishes. And my favorite one, which is Love's the first time, second time Dad, where the first time Dad, where he's going to the place to buy breast shields, which is a little bit awkward, and it's not awkward the next time. These are just cute little ads that are everyday ads that are showing men in a positive portrayal of being a role model of sharing the load. And that is actually as powerful as women. Because why do men not take paternity leave? Because it's not normal to them. And what you have to do is you have to make these kinds of things normal, create the conversations. We just had a guy who was in a Pampers meeting who just came off of paternity leave. We paused the meeting to congratulate him and thank him and ask him about his paternity leave. So it became part of the conversation. And that's what this movement is doing.
I hope you asked him how he's getting on with his Pampers as well. I hope you asked him how he's getting on with his Pampers.
Yeah, we definitely did. Asked for his hip subscription and everything.
And I think, and I just, for the record, we started calling the score the gender equality measure, and then Paul Pullman from Unilever was in Davos with us, and he says, you can't treasure what you can't measure. And then all of a sudden we said, oh my God, GEM is GEM. It's a gem. It was just, I just want everyone to be aware of where we started, because I think history does matter. And then we started saying, what if we create accountability for creating treasures, and that we can be proud of ourselves for how many treasures, we're collecting and creating. And I think it's just, really important. The other thing was See Her. For anyone's information that doesn't know this, we always used to use the expression, if you can see it, you can be it. But I don't want to be an it. I'm her. You're him. We're people. We're humans. And that's where we started. If you can see her, you can be her, which is how we got to #See Her, just to round that up and bring that home. So how do you get within your company everyone to play? Not only your leadership, but your agencies, your research companies. When we created this GEM score, we have syndicated, meaning we collect category information, and we also made it available to research companies so that you're not dependent on anyone or anything to get these scores. You can have that in the palm of your hands. The GEM score of 4 questions, so we also found a lot of learning. It's not just black or white, good or bad. There's dimensions of success, from how are women portrayed? Are they portrayed in a respectful manner, an appropriate manner? Are they role models or inappropriate? So you learn a lot from tweaking also. You don't have to throw it out. You might find that it's just, you got to flip one little thing and all of a sudden, you can see success. The other thing, just for everybody, we only look at good things. We don't point fingers and say this is bad and put people on the defensive. We are all trying to work towards just being better. So that's one thing that is really important to us at the ANA, AFE, and See Her. So how are you creating accountability within your organizations for this change? Because of course it starts with great leadership inspiring their team, but how do you make it sticky and standard inside of your companies?
I'll go. So I think you have to do it top down, bottom up, across, down, and it's repetitive and it's communication. So low-hanging fruit is taking the GEM scores that you have for the programming and sharing it with the agencies and using it to influence your negotiations, and letting the publishers know that, and the broadcast networks, et cetera, that you're using this as part of your evaluation system, because money talks. So check on that one. We have meetings within the organization with the people that are responsible for the creative product to go through the GEM scores and try to understand it. There's conversations to be had with data and analytics so that you could build in those questions into your models so that you can start measuring those things as well, which is super important. And then we were talking also about then you take it to the not this senior leadership group, but the senior leadership group above and across. So to make sure that they understand the importance of it and the value they're getting back from an ROI standpoint. Because at the end of the day, we're about selling products. And not only is this smart from a social standpoint, and it's so important for the future of the world, as we've been talking about, but it's important for business. And so I think that's just a simple bottom line answer. And people will come. And then this is a silly thing, but it works. People like to look at rankings, and no one likes to be on the bottom. Very true. So if you take those rankings, and so it's great that you celebrate the good, but it's very clear, if you show rankings, and why is my ad over here and it's not over here, and what do I need to do to get it there? Because we all live with a lot of type A competitive people, which is wonderful when you're trying to make change matter.
We only showcase top 10 so that the ones that are not have FOMO factor and have to get to the top. Yeah. We like that we love to collaborate. Collaboration is queen, but there's a little competition there too, which is not a bad thing for yourselves, not against anyone else. Exactly. It really is just, what you want to achieve. Who else has suggestions within your organizations? How do you make it sticky? How do you get everyone to participate? And Fiona, you've got a lot of examples with how you started in the RFP process and created a system.
Yeah, we've got a similar approach. So low-hanging fruit. So we're using the GEM score in all of our copy testing. I'm not going to pretend that all of the advertising scores highly, and I think that's part of the process. The GEM score, as you said, helps you diagnose the why. You have to have brave leaders who are prepared to talk about it openly in meetings and discuss it, but that's part of the process, and that will start to work through the system. We also are GEM scoring our media programming, and we've worked very hard and very openly in the upfront with our network partners, and we've had amazing conversations with CHER, but also the network partners. And what was gratifying to see was actually that my media team went one step further. So they're not only using GEM score programming, but they're actually now scoring themselves to see if they're going to beat themselves every year. So they're already self-measuring in order to show progress. And that didn't come from me. That came from empowered marketers down the system. We're also becoming a content company as we go direct to consumers with content. So both in our advertising, commercial content, but also programming. We've started to create more partnerships with female leaders. So I think a great one is we have a partnership with Reese Witherspoon and her production company. She's a huge advocate for this issue, and she wanted to bring to everybody the female voice from the South, which is not represented in programming at all. And so it was great to be able to support her, and we're going to co-create, and that's going to be another section, of the female gender that gets to see themselves on screen. That's the easy stuff, because that's marketing. I think what has been gratifying for me is, though, if you stand up and talk about this with passion, it is infectious. So my CFO secretly streamed our Women in the World panel, Marc. He then sent the link to his family and all of his friends, came to me and said, I'm a feminist. I have daughters. I have many women in my close family. And he said, and now I've started pointing out the issues. So he is now critiquing press releases because they don't have enough she's, too many he's. He started gently advising, the social team when they don't have enough women in the imagery. So the idea that this can organically seep through an organization and become, true, and as you said, the true normal to an organization and everyday behavior. It's something I underestimated. So we have a whole secret group of see her guardians that aren't in marketing, which is wonderful.
Yeah, just sort of building on that thought. So we looked at as we were discussing here, the sort of stereotypes in advertising, and then we also then did a study on stereotypes within the workforce, and we did it with 9,000 people, and it's in developed markets and in developing markets. So it's quite representative of across the world. And what was striking, and I know we're here talking about advertising, so I'm sending a little detail.
I think mindset is very important.
Yeah, but what was striking was the stereotypes that we all hold across the world, and it's men and women. So women have stereotypes about women as well. That they,
And about men.
Absolutely. But as far as moving the debate along, I think we just need to be really aware that exists, and in understanding that better, I think then we can take action. And it's great to hear the story from you, Fiona, about seeing different people in the organisation. We see the same. It's one of these things that when it starts taking momentum, it gets more and more momentum. And with the situation, we have half our board is female. We haven't got half yet in management, 45% female, but we're on that journey. And I think it all becomes more obvious to people when they see it and when they can understand what's going on.
And Marc, I just want to ask you a question because, when there's been so many ideas for moving forward, why do you think this movement is working so far? I mean, 2 years in, a lot of traction. What would you attribute that to?
That's a great question. I think what it is that there is passion among a multitude of companies. And as opposed to trying to compete on the basis of making gender equality, a ownable positioning, what these companies have done have decided that we're gonna still compete, but we're gonna compete on the basis of creativity. And because we also have recognized that, and I think there's enough cases that many of us are making, that when you do that and compete on the basis of creativity, focused on creating gender equality, then what happens is that your work is better, it's far more insightful, it's far more fun, it's really, really creative, and you get more growth. So it's just this combination that just came together, because I can remember when Stephen and you and Gail came to the A&A and were talking about it, it's like everybody just around that room said, this just makes complete sense. And what it has is it sparked creativity. And that's what I think is so cool about it. And then I think what everybody is saying is right. There's also this piece, which is, it is the everyday mindset and the everyday conversations, and a lot of leadership's into it. Our CEO is into this. Our board is into this. Our senior leadership company of our company is into it, and we're talking about it openly, and all that stuff adds up cumulatively to a tipping point. And I think we just hit it, and now we're ready to take off.
But I just want to say one thing. I know why my female colleagues here are doing this. I think we really do want to thank our male colleagues here, because I don't think we could have done it without you guys. I think it took you standing up to make a real difference. So I certainly want to say thank you personally to all of you, because we have to do it together. Yeah. That's the way to make a change.
We respelled the word feminism. We put the word men in it, FEMENISM. Modern feminism must include men. Transformation won't happen with 50% of the population. We call it we for we. We are all in it together. So, thank you, Fiona, because it really is very true. We are all in this together, and I think it's really important. Can I do one quick question to run through, and we'll start with Stephen. 2020. By the way, 2020 is a very important year because it's celebrating the 100-year anniversary for women's right to vote. So 2020 is a monumental moment in history. So let's just assume it's 2020 and we hit our goal, that we have increased our advertising by 20% to accurately and realistically portray girls and women in media and entertainment. Check, done. What's next?
When we hit that goal, 20%, we will still have a long way to go. But I think what we're really looking for is action in the marketing community. When I think of what I'm really focused on, I'm thrilled to be here with this group of people, because companies like Unilever and P&G have been leading in this area for well over a decade. But some of these other folks, these guys, I can tell you for a fact, very quickly got onto this and started making change happen as leaders inside of their companies. And a big part of what I'm focused on is, why is the marketing community not moving faster and really making change happen. It's a bit extraordinary being here with a group of these folks because they not only agree with it, but they're really doing things about it. We have a huge group of people, as Marc said, we're not meeting any resistance. No one's saying, yeah, I just kind of disagree with the whole premise here.
Well, I got rid of those. Whoever said that, they're out of here.
I know. Well, they wouldn't be
We'll
up
never
here
find
on this deck for sure. But the reality is, why are marketers not making a bigger change? We all want this to happen. We want it for the people that we love, for the people that we work with, and we've got an industry that, quite frankly, if you look at the, approval ratings in our industry, we have a long way to go in that area too. This is an area where I think collectively, you guys have talked about this. If we really have an impact collectively, I think marketing will be seen to have been a real force for good. Keith, you just talked about that, because there's so much power in the group of marketers. You're spending hundreds of billions of dollars in a giant ecosystem that has a huge impact on culture, not just from the content that you create, but also the content that you influence by being a part of it. And quite frankly, we've got to take advantage of the time we have. The average marketer, if you're at the very senior levels, might be in a job for 4 years, is actually a pretty long time. And so you've got to get busy on this right now and get things happening so that we can really make progress as an industry.
Yeah. Can I ask a question before I get your final roundup? Where does this responsibility lie, do you think, in your organizations? At the CMO, at the CBO, at the CEO? Like, what level in your organization do you think can, take this forward and keep it going? Where does that live?
From my perspective, the tone at the top matters. So it starts with the CEO and walking the talk. What's interesting at J&J, paternity leave, at this point, we were a first mover, is normalized, right? Half the team on baby right now is on paternity leave, right? And they come back with different insights on the business from the perspective of a dad, right? So tone at the top matters, but then the CMO, the marketing community needs to evangelize it and get everyone pulled up through both within the organization and through the partner ecosystem.
Okay, does everyone agree with that? Okay, good.
Yeah, I was just going to say I completely agree with that. It's up to us to go execute, though. I have another great story. Our Chief Technology Officer is also a huge proponent of gender equality. He's a huge feminist, which is wonderful to see. And he just quietly made a change in terms of recruitment. So instead of mandating quotas of women in tech, he simply asked that when it came to recruitment, that there was a equal number of men and women on the list of interviewees. And that then saw a growth in the number of women in tech. So the CEO sets the tone, but it's up to the leaders to make real difference in whatever area they are responsible for.
I think that's really a good point. That the tone from the top is critical, but the pervasiveness has to go all the way through the level, because we have a lot of people at few bands in who are hiring.
That's right.
A lot of the advancement has to come at the lower levels. You have to know how to manage effectively and how to be inclusive in things. And then a lot of brand managers are looking at advertising. Just 2 weeks ago, I looked at a piece of advertising with Carolyn Tassett, and we looked at it and we said, this advertising just isn't quite right. It had a woman in a position where she looked flustered. And then actually at the end of it ended up staying flustered, and a man looked like he was totally in control. We said, you know what, that's just not right, and that's we have a higher order responsibility for that. So that was at the mid-level management. So part of our jobs is to do what Fiona did in her situation, is just call it out, do it in a constructive way, but make sure that becomes the expectation throughout the entire organization.
So it's creating consciousness too. We're sitting down having the conversations, but we're having the conversations with a conscious mind towards equality.
I think so I agree completely. I would just add and maybe ask Stephen if it's possible. One of the things that I think about as I'm listening to all of us speak about this is, not only is it important for the advertising and the programming and what we're putting out into the world, but it's going to have an effect on the culture that we're working in. Yes. And so is there a way to maybe measure that? Because that's important to all of our companies as well.
I don't know if Jackie Kelly is here, but we also are working on, with Bloomberg on the GEI, the Gender Equality Index, which measures diversity in the workplace and culture, so that we can be, this is one variable for equality in media and entertainment. And I know, Keith, you've got, things that you're working on as well.
Yeah, it's just first of all, I want to because I see us running towards the end. I just want to say who the Gail is we keep referring to, because she's not here, she's in America. So give her a quick call out. She's our VP in Unilever in the US, and she's in the US, and she was the one bottle of the wine. Was she half a bottle of wine and you were a bottle and a half? I don't know. And worked very closely with the ANA. And I think there's some great work that's been done that I think we can all learn from. And I think you were saying about sort of going, how can we go further on this? And all these great people sitting here. On Thursday morning, we're going to meet on something called the Unstereotype Alliance. And UN Women, as we speak right now, Pumzili, the executive director of UN Women, is flying into Cannes. And obviously this has been a US-based focus, but it gives us an opportunity to look at a global approach of unstereotyping advertising. And we've got 20 companies coming along to this. And on one side, it's Google, Facebook, and Twitter. On the other side, you've got Martin Sol and WPP and Michael Roth and IPG, etc. And then you've got people like Marc and J&J and
the conversation will not be as interesting as this one. I mean, it's going to be amazing, but I can't imagine.
But I think what's going to be interesting about it is exactly that point about, we've done some great stuff collectively in the US. I mean, just imagine what you could do in the world. And that's the exciting thing.
I think we all have amazing imaginations, and we also know that we can achieve the possibilities, which is really a common thread here. Let's do a closing point of what's success for you.
So part of the unique texture I bring to the movement is healthcare. And what's interesting about J&J is consumer builds the brand, it sets the stereotypes, but where we're really underserved is women in healthcare as surgeons, as specialist physicians. So if they could see her, they could be her. And that movement should carry out throughout healthcare more pervasively to better serve women and humanity. So the global and healthcare are my stretchers.
I mean, I think it's just more of what we've said. I'd love to see, and 2020 at 20 kind of depresses me. So I think my hope is that we exceed that by leaps and bounds by 2020. And I think we can if we all sort of band together and push. And to Stephen's point, it needs more than the marketers here. It needs all marketers to move in this direction. But I think, to me, a win would see it permeating, that it becomes a normal way of working and doing and creating, and not something that is special or that has to be pushed. But I think we constantly have to measure ourselves against it, just like we measure ourselves against anything else, so that we don't have a slippage, because we have thousands of years across the globe of behaving a certain way. So that's a lot of change to affect. So I would never take my my hand off the measurement piece.
So I grew up with very performance-oriented parents. So 20% is not good enough for me or for them. So I don't think it's wishful thinking. I feel the passion and I feel the action on this panel, and I'm so excited about Thursday. I think, even if I just set the goal for the US alone, I think we can solve the problem by 2020, and we should. So at least in advertising, that's my goal.
And to keep building on that, I completely agree. What we need is this action that's going to change attitudes. And in addition to the Stereotype Alliance that Keith talked about, we're joining together, Keith, me, this group here, who are also going to do a study on gender equality attitudes, headed by the UN Women and WPP Kantar. So we can look at, in 40 countries around the world, are we changing attitudes? And this will be done over the next 10 years. So it's 2 years, 4 years, every 2 years we'll do this. What that will do is hold us accountable for changing attitudes. So our advertising and the media that we're on should be able to do that. So what we'll do, and Stephen's actually part of this, is going to meet with Dr. Pumzili as well. So on Thursday, we'll be announcing the study as well to hold the industry accountable for changing attitudes, so equal representation and equality is absolutely the norm.
So do you want to give a
I
what's
also want to say,
success for you?
all the thing is we're here, in Cannes and talking about advertising, and so what I'd love to see is us using this sort of annual event to chart progress, and we can see how are we doing in our advertising.
In the girls' lounge.
And when you started,
Interesting.
in marketing, back at the very beginning, what was marketing about? Marketing was about serving people, and if they serve people better than the alternative, the people would buy your product or brand rather than it. And I think this is about making marketing noble again. And I think we lost our way in the 80s of selling more stuff. And I think marketing and advertising can get back to being what it's there is to serve people and do a better job.
Well, I have to tell you that I have never been more proud to be in this industry. And this is, for me, a legacy that I will be so proud to leave because we are doing it together. And so to each and every one of you, Debra, Nadine, Fiona, Marc, Stephen, and Keith, thank you for being leaders and, walking the talk. And just for drama, because, I'm a little drama queen every once in a while, I actually want you guys to just stand up for 1 second. And, one of the things that we say is change happens when you take that next step. So if you can all just take your next step towards equality and foresee her, I just want to thank you all for coming. Let's go. There we go. Thank you, guys. Amazing.